It's Monday, March 27th, 2023. Now, I got some rest on the weekend, which was nice. Saturday I rested all day. To be honest, I was so wore out after my Friday. My body doesn't respond well to crawling around under old trucks and under the hood and everything. That emergency repair out in a neighboring town actually took a lot out of me. Made me very, very sore. And so I took Saturday as my day of rest. Sunday I was still pretty sore, but I decided to do some work on Sunday, so I came in the shop and worked on a few things. My wife came in with me. She helped me here at the table saw for a little while. If I'm doing small parts that need to be run through and stacked up and counted or whatever, or if I'm doing parts that have to be run through and then come back to me, it's really handy to have her here to help. It speeds things up immensely, so she's a really good help that way. And yesterday I was doing I was trimming some medium end bars down to 1.25 inches. I'm making those mini mating nuke frames. They're just narrow, small little frames, and I find that when you make a 5-frame box like that, 1 3/8 wide end bars are a little tight, so I run them through the saw and cut them down 1.25 inches, and that makes them a little more roomy in the box for management. It's just a nicety. And this customer, I offered this customer that service, and he accepted that. So I make a couple of bucks, but it's really hard on the body. I stand here a long time doing it, and you stand in one place, and the body kind of doesn't like that. So this job as well that I'm doing is hard on the body, because I'm making I'm milling. I've cut the size, the center shims on my for my 2-way and my 3-way pallets, and I'm doing the rabbets on the end of these. So what's going to happen here is this rabbet sits in the center of the pallet, and then the clip sits in there. And I really, depth-wise, I do 3/16, and why that is then the screw head. I use a pan head screw. I believe that a pan head screw is, more correct here than a flathead screw, and so I don't want the pan head screw to stick up kind of above that, because the box is going to sit right here. The boxes are soft enough that if that screw sticks up a little, it'll be fine, and it's not going to stick up enough that the bees can even get through. But that's just what I've decided. I make those 3/16 deep, and those are 2 inches, 2 inches square, 2 inches wide, 2 inches both directions. So again, the 2-way pallet shims are shorter than the 3-way. The 3-way pallet shim is about 20 inches, 20 1/8, and the 2-way is 18. So we're 2 inches shorter. And you'll see later on how this goes together and why. But these 2-way pallet shims get a rabbet on each end, so an open-ended rabbet on each end. The 3-way pallet shim gets an open-ended rabbet on one end, and then it gets a dado on the other, because that clip will sit not at the end, it'll sit in here. What'll happen is it'll actually be the same dimension as far as the clip goes, so if you put these two together, then the clip will sit here, so that dado is going to go right in there. So I need to do double end for the 2-way pallet shims and single end for the 3-way pallet shims, and then I need to reset the saw and the fence, and then do that dado that's midway in that one. I've got 100 of the 2-way pallets, so that's 200 rabbets, and I've got 160 because there's 2 center shims on a 3-way pallet. So we've got 160. I'm making 80. I think I'm making 80 of these pallets. So I have 160 of these. So I do another 160 rabbits, and then I do another 160 dados in the other end. So it's a lot of going through the saw for sure. But I've done all of the rabbits here on the 3-ways, and I've done half of the 2-ways both ends. So I have 50 more of these to do on the 2-ways, and so I'm making good progress. And it's hard on the body. I've got a soft pad to stand on here, but it's essentially doing this over and over, you know, kind of thing. And it really takes a toll on me. So that's today. And I was reviewing some of my vlog videos, and I don't know that I've done a vlog entry outdoors for a very, very long time because it's been so cold out. And of course, you know, December and January were kind of goofy. I was working in here for most of December, building shop, and then I couldn't really do any work in January. And then, so there, you know, I couldn't even go outside there was no reason. So it's just been really cold. I did one little short thing out there when I was bringing jars home. And so I'm looking forward to doing some vlog entries outdoors again. It's cold, you know, 27th of March, we usually get some warmer temperatures, but man, it's in the minus 16, minus 20 range at night. And it's getting up closer to, you know, just below freezing in the day. And the sun is really hot. If there's any area that's not just white snow, meaning if there's any dark color at all, then that melts at, you know, minus 10 in the sun. Like, for example, the tires on the tractor, I'll drive the tractor around, and then the water's running off the tires because the sun is hitting the black tire and it makes it hot, even at minus 10. So we're getting there. By the forecast right now, the way it looks, I probably will be moving my bees out about the 6th of April, which, you know, as bad as last spring was, that's 4 days later. I think it was the 2nd of April I moved out last year. And it's so you're really making me wonder, like, what's going on and what's going to happen. If the, you know, April doesn't warm up really nice, we could have another really pathetic spring. The bees just didn't build up very well for me last year, so I really hope that that's different this year. But, you know, hope and pray, and that's all you can do. It is what it is. There's nothing I can do for the bees at this point, and that's just what it is. That's just what it is. So I ignore that problem, and I sit in here and I build my equipment. So that's the stack of parts, minus the plywood. It takes up a lot more space. So let's see if I can remember. This is 100 2-way pallets, 60 3-way pallets, 30 6-frame migratory covers, and 200 10-frame migratory covers. Should be all of the parts less the plywood here for that build. So I guess I got a lot of work to do, don't I? This is going to take me a long time. This is going to take me a month to get this together, and I still have to cut a little bit of plywood to do that. So yeah, thanks for watching. Take care and have fun. It's Tuesday, March 28th, 2023. It's still a pretty cold day out. It's been getting down close to minus 20 every night for, well, a week or more, and not very close to 0 in the daytime, minus 8, minus 6. It's been very sunny though, and it's surprising how much melting there is when it's that cold, but it's sunny this time of year in March. The sun is very, very high, and it's very hot. But with all of the snow cover, there's not much warming when the sunlight hits the ground. So here's interesting trivia that I learned way back in my school days. We think about getting heat from the sun, and we don't. We don't get any heat from the sun. You think, well, I finally lost my mind and I'm saying things that aren't true. That's true because you can't transmit heat through a vacuum of space, for example. You can transmit light. We get light energy from the sun, and that's all. And when the light energy hits the earth, or hits a building or a vehicle or the ground or something, or your face, that's when the heat is generated. So what color that object is very important. And if it's all snow cover here, it's white. Well, we all know white doesn't absorb light energy. White, the color white, reflects light energy. So therefore, there's little to no heat generated at that point because almost all of it is reflected. You get a dark spot in the snow, a little bit of ground starts to show, then the heat gets generated when the light hits that. So there's your little science lesson for the day. I slept really good last night, and one of the reasons I did is because I am moving on from the first big stage of my build project into the second big stage of my build project. And that is moving from preparing the pieces that I need for building the products into actually assembling those products using screws, nails, and glue to put things together. Finally, it's been a long journey. It's been 2 months that I've been cutting material for this project. It's crazy. So I really want to get this done ASAP because we are on the cusp of April. And when April hits, then there's bees to move, there's bees to inspect, there's bees to feed, there's bees to tend to, there's syrup to make, there's et cetera, you get the idea. And I want to play outside instead of inside because it's presumably going to be warm. April still, anything can happen. We usually get a snowstorm or two in April. The benefit is it's normally not very cold, not super cold anyway. So the bees outside in a snowstorm, it's not a big deal. They'll be fine. So anyway, I'm rambling. And so today, just kind of finishing up a few little projects. A couple things I wanted to run on the table saw before I cover it up with my assembly plywood. I put a piece of plywood that's right here on the table saw to protect it. And I actually build a jig there when I build pallets. I'll build a jig on that plywood just to help me a little bit assembling those. So that's what I was doing earlier today. I had to go out and check my truck. I need to address the coolant in the truck to make sure it has strong enough antifreeze. I've had it plugged in ever since I got home last week. You remember the saga about the water pump. And so now there's a continuing story about making sure there's enough antifreeze in the water. You know, it's been really cold, so I'm not really sure where I'm at right there. I did run it down the road today, and it seems like it's okay. I think there's strong enough antifreeze in it that it's not going to actually damage anything, but it could actually freeze up, so that's not good. So anyway, that needs to be done. There's a little tool, and I just ordered one online. There's a tool. It's called a hydrometer. It checks the specific gravity of liquids, and you use that for checking the strength of the coolant after it's mixed with water. So I need one of those. I have one of those. Who knows where it is? I haven't used it in decades, so I have no idea where that tool is. It's $20. I bought one online and get it in a few days, and then I'll check that. So I'm moving on here to a little in-between project. I'm going to build my pallets before I build the covers. So I'm going to build pallets, and then I'm going to switch over and build covers. But before I start the pallets even, This is my frame building jig, and minus the pieces of wood that go in here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a few of these. I actually, the other day I was messing around and I cut up all the material. I built one that day, but I cut enough material actually for 5 more. I kind of got carried away, but anyway, I cut up enough material for 5 more. And so I'm going to build those 5 today, and I'll step you along as I do that. They're fairly easy build. The way I've got them now, you see this one here. You see how I've built this. I've actually built this out of one piece of lumber, and I've cut this out. It's a little bit of a tricky cut doing that. And then same thing, this is one piece of lumber and I've cut these out here. This is not difficult at all, but I've simplified that. And what I do now is I'll make 3 pieces of wood. I'll make this piece, and then this piece and this piece, and I just glue them all together. And that makes it a lot easier. One of my big challenges with these is this dimension is not very important. Okay, generally I'll build this. Look at this old one; it's all cracked here. Generally, I'll build this so that I can fit 10 frames in it. You know, it doesn't matter what you do there. However, this dimension here, between here and here, is very important, because that's the inside dimension of the end bars minus those pieces I slide in. And I would like to make this piece and this piece the same size, but I can't, because this piece needs to be a particular length, and that would be a little too short for this piece if I want to get 10 frames in this. So now I've got 2 pieces. They're about 1/4 of an inch difference in length. So hey, that's the way it is. It's Thursday, March 30th, 2023. Tomorrow's the last day of March, and it's pretty nice weather for the last day of January, but not the last day of March. It's been really cold. I think they said that we haven't had temperature above 0 degrees here since Valentine's Day, which is pretty warm for Valentine's Day. But normally we get, I think the normal high here is 5. So nothing like what we've got. We've got a lot of snow, and temperatures are not going to warm up for another few days. If the forecast holds, I'm looking at the 7th of April to move my bees out. That's the latest I've ever moved them out in 8 years. So, a little anxious about that. But, in the meantime, there's lots of work to do in a wood shop. And guess what I got done yesterday? Pallets. I don't even know how many are here. There's a bunch. There's, I don't know, 15 or something there. And now that's just the underpinnings. I haven't done the shims on the top of them. So I usually do these in 2 stages, just so that, you know, my workstation here doesn't get too cluttered with too many different parts. So what I've got here is, I've only got 2 parts. I've got my risers and I've got my runners. And so I lay out the plywood on here, which is just sitting down here on a skid. I just bring this in with the tractor and bring that plywood up onto the 2x4s here. I call them the risers, and run some glue and screws, and you've probably seen that before a few times. So that's just over and over and over. So far, I think I'm only doing one thing that's different than I've done before, and that's concerning the runner. You see that I've cut that chamfer on my runner already, and I decided to try my router table here to run these before assembly and not after, and it's working really well. I think I've got 20 runners in a pack, and so I'll run 20 across here and then do some assembly, run 20 across there. Helps to break the day up and get the body moving in a different, just a different kind of a stance. And move around a little bit. So yeah, that's all there is to report. However, it is like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I haven't built any pallets yet today. Well, it was delivery day. I visited a couple stores, and I wasn't planning on it, and I really didn't want to today, but I need to have a better attitude about that, because that's the bread and butter. It's just that I always think about, am I going to one store and it's 30 miles away and it's going to cost me X in fuel? And that's exactly what happened. But Buddy placed a really good order, so I thought, well, it's worth driving there just for that store. Stopped at another store on the way back, though, and he placed another order. So it was actually a really good day. It was a really good day with minimal, what is it, about 60, 65 miles I put on in the truck. And then when I got home, well, I had lunch when I got home. I took a little bit of a break. And then after that, I spent some time with the tractor outside, moving things around. We're going to get some snow on the weekend, so I haven't been cleaning up. Things have been all over the place and big mess, so I cleaned things up, got some of my parts and lumber and stuff in the shed and that sort of thing. Again, nothing too exciting, just moving things around. And now I'm done, and I want to build pallets, but I'm played out. So I'm going to sit down for a couple of minutes and just catch my breath, and then I'm going to build some pallets. I don't know how many I can build today, but I'll do a few. And yeah, I got to do 160 pallets. So if I build 10 pallets a day, that's 16 days. And I can't do it every day because I need to go to the city, I need to do deliveries, and other stuff happens. Oh, and there's that day of rest too. Don't forget that. 16 days. But the days I do build pallets, I can build more than that. I think a decent day of pallet building is 20-25. So hopefully it's no more than a couple of weeks, maybe this week and next. Well, I only started yesterday, so it's not going to be just this week. And if the forecast holds, I could be moving bees out on Friday. That's Good Friday, April 7th. So it'd be good if I could move the bees out. That'd be good. So it'd be Good Friday. So we'll see. We'll see if that happens. But then I'm going to be busy for a couple days. Move the bees out at least one day. Sometimes it takes me two if the ground is soft or something else happens. And then I need to get a tank of syrup mixed, and I could mix the syrup beforehand probably, but it still takes time, so it takes time away from the shop. And then I need to feed the bees. I need to get the syrup on, patties in. I'm going to hold off on my Apivar this spring. I have to do my testing anyway. And I'm going to try and gather some samples for nosema testing. I've never tested for nosema, so, well, I should say I haven't. KRTP has here a couple times, but I haven't done it just when I brought the bees out, so I'm going to do that, send a sample away. And yeah, so I'm going to hold off on Apivar a little bit. I usually try to get it in at least by April 1st, but I'm going to delay it until middle of April. And but that's it's only going to be a week after the bees are out anyway, so it's not going to be much of a delay. I'm going to do my mite treatments a little differently this year, at least on a subset of my bees, and so I'll cover that when I do, and kind of the rationale behind that. And that Apivar timing is part of that, and so I'll talk about that then. Yeah, so the time is going to get more busy, not less. My winter has evaporated on me. Taken a month and a half off because of that eye surgery put me behind. Plus I had way more work this year than I had ever had before. Like at least twice as much work as I ever had before. Maybe a little more. Yeah, so I gotta get at this. And Hopefully I'll be able to show you a little bit of this. Anyway, we'll talk to you later. Take care, and don't stress out too much like I am, and have fun.